Hello there, everyone. Patricia Hayes here. Super excited to be with you here again to continue our conversation about transitions. So, if you're joining for the first time, again, my name is Patricia Hayes. I'm an executive advisor, empowerment coach, and authentic networking strategist, which all that means is I love working with people, especially women, who are looking to up level in their lives and their careers and need that support, right, to make it happen in an empowered way while also making sure to utilize their most valuable resource, which is often our professional network. So here we are talking about making a transition and continuing in this series. And today we are talking about how the transitions are a process that you should not try to short cycle. Right? Oh my gosh, there's so much here, and I know we're not going to cover it all, but we're going to do our best. So, the empowered action from this one is to rest and wait. The most difficult thing, I know, because I have been there, but we're going to talk about why that is important. So, here's the first thing. We know what a process is, right? But here's your classic dictionary definition. It's a series of actions or steps that are taken in order to achieve a particular end. Now, I want to use that kind of double entendre right there with that in order, which is this is talking about in order to achieve a particular end, but how about in the proper order also, right? Because that is super important. Because when you try to short cycle a process and do something out of order, that can be just as damaging as if you do something but then try to rush it. Okay, so let's talk about what happens if you try to ignore a step, right? If you try to ignore a step, whatever. Three different things that can happen. First, you could get hurt because you're not ready. Think about something where let's say if you're learning how to use a power tool and you skip past one of the important steps in learning how to use that power tool, you could do damage to yourself physically, right? Same thing in a process where we're talking about transitioning for professional purposes, your work, your business, or whatever. You could get hurt because you're not ready. And what do you mean hurt? You could damage your reputation. You could have a relationship that falters because you tried to rush something that you shouldn't have. There's just so many ways you could be hurt personally, right? And during the process, which happens anyway sometimes. So why would you add to that, right? So that's the thing. You could get hurt if you ignore a step. You could miss an opportunity. This is one of the things that really, really hurts, right? Because you are trying to shorten this process in some way. You then, as a result, miss an opportunity that could get you to where you want to be. Those are tough. Those are tough to see after the fact. Okay. And a third one is ultimately the end result is not the desired outcome. Think about if you're baking, anyone who bakes or has tried to bake, and what happens if you leave out the baking powder, or if you leave out the eggs, or if you leave out the vanilla. Oh my God, trust you me, that is not something you want to eat. Okay? If you try to leave out an important element of whatever it is you're trying to bake, and it was part of the recipe. Think about the process as being a recipe for getting to the end. Guess what? You're not going to have the result you want. You're not going to get to where you want to be. Just like that cake, that cupcake, those cookies are going to be a hot mess and nobody's going to want to eat it. Same thing for your career transition, your business transition. If you leave out steps and try to short cycle and ignore something, you're going to be upset because the end result is not going to be anywhere near what you want it to be on purpose, right? Because you tried to move too fast or you tried to take something out. So, which gets us to that question of Well, why do we attempt to short cycles, a process? Obvious things, very obvious things. We're impatient. I know I am very impatient. I have learned over the years to modify. I do not declare myself a patient person because there's always something that comes along that then tests that. So I just say I'm a work in progress, right? And I'm better, but I am nowhere near where I could probably end up being. We're impatient. What causes us to be impatient? Most of the time, it's about some level of scarcity, right? Because we think we're not going to be able to pay a bill. We're not going to be able to take care of ourselves or our family. We need to make sure we get that money. We don't have much of a gap time to play with, right? That's normally the lead reason why we're impatient. Other times we're just impatient because it's just like, I just want this to be done. Like, I'm ready to move on. Why can't this move on? Okay. And you want things to move quicker than they are. Again, totally natural, totally normal, but we have to rest and wait. That's the empowered action. Remember? Okay. So that's a tough one. Another reason why we attempt to short cycle is we're in denial. This one came to me and I was like, oh, wow. Like I felt that all in my, all within, because I've been there. When you are in denial about what has happened and you are so ready to get away from it and to distance yourself as soon as possible, that can cause you to try to short cycle a process that unfortunately still needs to work itself out. So that's a you issue, that's a me issue that we have to acknowledge and address and go do that reflection time. Remember that I mentioned in the first in our first conversation, where you got to be willing to be comfortable with the uncomfortable. And part of that is acknowledging that something about where you were when this transition began or whatever, it really made you unhappy, it made you upset, whatever it is, but you're in denial about it. But if you try to take that denial and then use it to rush where you're going next, you're going to regret it. It is going to mess up the process for you and not help you. All right. That denial is going to actually, if you were to go ahead and step out of the denial, acknowledge it, acknowledge what has caused you to be there, that will actually get you where you want to go faster than you thought, right? Because you are willing to acknowledge what's happened, acknowledge that you got hurt in the process, acknowledge that you were, that something happened that you were really not happy about. Maybe you made a mistake or whatever. But when you take that and can move forward with it, that will actually help activate your process much more so than being in denial about it. It's really funny how that works. Okay. The third thing, linked a little bit to the second thing, is ego, just flat out ego, not willing to listen and learn because we know better, or maybe because we don't know better, but we don't want to hear it from somebody. I'm gonna let that sit there. But it's true. Our ego will definitely take us down some roads that we don't have to go down and spend a lot more time there than we should. So think about that. Sometimes we need to sit back, recognize we do not know everything, that there's definitely something to be learned during this process, that we have to listen to voices, to things, to people we might not have considered before. Doesn't mean you have to take it all in. Take it with it, take it with a grain of salt, or but take it in so that you can then decide what to do with it. All right. Make an active decision about what's coming your way, as opposed to just a dismissive one, which is insulting to the person who's maybe trying to help or support you, and also potentially damaging, because again, that's one of those points where you could lose a relationship, you could lose a connecting point because you're not willing to learn, you're not willing to listen. Okay. And that will also, lead to an end result that you don't want, because that's a part of you trying to short cycle whatever's going on. So in the middle of, or not in the middle, but just in the midst of making a transition professionally, whether it's in your career, whether it's in your business, whatever it may be, here's the thing. The process itself doesn't have to be long. We're always afraid that it's going to be too long because we've got this subjective thing in our mind about how long we think it should be. Here's the thing. It often doesn't have to be long, but it does have to be complete. Think about that. So if you want to make sure your process is complete, you have to be willing to engage at all of the steps and all of the levels. Some things may move faster than others. Maybe the entire process moves very fast, okay? But it's the reality of acknowledging that there is a process that has to happen. And if you want it to be successful, how you define success is for getting to the end that you want, a new job, a new part of your business developed, whatever it may be, but you want it to be complete. Okay? So it's going to be really important along this journey that you do the self-check-in work and do it regularly. Where are you in the process? Ask yourself that. Where am I in this process? Am I trying to rush some part of it? And if I am, why? What if it's the flip? Maybe part of the process is there's a next step and you're dragging your feet about taking it. That is the same thing as trying to skip. So if you drag your feet on a part of the process, now you're slowing yourself down. That can still get you all of those things. You could get yourself hurt. You could miss an opportunity. The end result could be not where you want it, what you want it to be, because you drug your feet at a part of the process. So if you're dragging your feet and not engaging at some level along the way that you should be, think about not the fact of, when you tell someone, hey, I'm going to meet you at the corner of 5th and Broadway, and you get there and you said, we're going to meet there at 10 o'clock though. Okay. We're going to meet there at 10 a.m. But you got distracted. You went and did something else, like, oh, whatever. And you get there and they're not there because you showed up at 10:45. Y'all had an agreement to meet there at 10. That was part of the thing. Like, you're going somewhere, you agree where you're going to meet, you're going to go do the next part of it. So what if you think about your career journey, your professional journey in that same way, which is thinking about, am I dragging my feet on something, and acknowledging why, because it may keep you from being at your appointed place in the process and cause you to miss an opportunity that could be there for you. So it flows both ways. And I want you to think about that. And it's super important to engage in that. Again, it may make you uncomfortable, but it's a part of the process and it's okay. All right. It's okay to feel uncomfortable, to feel out of place and out of sorts, because you're on a journey. You're headed somewhere, and you want to make sure that your process is complete so that you can have the outcome that you really want along the way, which is to have that new position, to start that new business, to engage in that fantastic project, right? To take a sabbatical. I don't know what it is for you, but whatever it is, you want to achieve it, and you want to make sure that it happens in a in not just a timely manner. I'm going to be careful with those words, but in the manner that it's supposed to, right? In the time frame that it's meant to be. Now, do things happen? Absolutely. Absolutely. The unexpected happens all the time. But again, it's how you respond to that situation in that time frame, in that part of that process. Like that's literally a part of one of the things we have to acknowledge. Like something crazy is going to happen. I tell the folks I coach all the time, the minute they make the decision that I'm ready, let's go, let's do this. And I say, now you've made a decision that you are ready, you've made a commitment to move forward and to do the next thing. I want you to know something totally off the wall is about to happen. And they're like, what? And I'm like, this is not me speaking something, negative into you or whatever. Like it's literally a part of what happens. There's always something out of sorts to happen without fail. All right. That's that part of being prepared, doing the work, even when you don't know what that thing may be, but being prepared to be comfortable with the uncomfortable, to acknowledge, oh my goodness, I didn't see that coming. What do I need to do next? As opposed to perhaps letting it totally take you out. All right. But when you are taking the steps that you need to take in the order that you need to take them, without trying to short cycle, what are you also doing? You're also taking that empowered action that we talked about that involves resting and waiting. Again, not everyone's strong suit, certainly not mine. But unfortunately, if you don't take that resting and waiting time yourself, you could be forced to take it because maybe you get yourself too stressed out, so you end up getting sick. Right? Or maybe you take something, you try to force something out of order. So now you're forced to wait until the next time something can happen. It always comes back to it, right? So recognize when it's like, you know what, I need to take a step back. Maybe it's time for me to just kind of wait this one out. Maybe it's time for me to take a rest. What does that rest look like? Like for real rest. If you don't know what that is, then send me a message. We'll talk about it. But those are the things and those are the opportunities. So remember, transitions are a process. Do not try to short cycle them because you can hurt yourself in the process. You could miss an opportunity that was meant for you. You can end up with an end result that's not your desired outcome, right? So be mindful of when you're impatient. Be mindful of your acting in denial. Be mindful of your letting your ego get in the way of you listening and learning from someone or someplace that you might not otherwise have been open to before. Okay? Remember this key thing. The process doesn't have to be long, but it does need to be complete. Are you allowing your process to move along at a pace and in a way that it will be complete? There we are. All right. It's been my honor as usual to share with you today. I hope that you are having a good day for those of you who have holiday in the United States. And if not, that you continue to push forward to have a great week. Okay, take care. Drop me some questions, comments, or DM me because remember, I'm going to be doing a Q&A on the final Monday in this month since we have an extra one. All right, so I want to be able to answer some questions from real life situations. Take care, and I'll talk with you soon. Bye-bye.